The Seder by the Rebbe was many times, Hishan Rabbah at night, before the Rebbe came down to shul to say Tilim, he would go into a sukkah for a while. And then he would come back, and then later on go down to the shul to say Tilim with the minyan. So I remember once standing there in the hallway, Hishan Rabbah at night, this was in the Chofs, and I see the Rebbe walk out from his room and went to the sukkah, stayed in the sukkah for a while, and then after that he went back to his room. Now we're standing not far from there. When the Rebbe came out of his sukkah to go back to his room, he passed by, obviously, the hall. In the hallway there was a table. In front of that case where you have the Svarim of Merkaz showcase, there was a table there. And on the table were different Svarim. And there was a bocher on the other side of the table, next to that showcase, selling these Svarim. Now, these were not regular Merkaz Svarim. These were Svarim that Bochrim would give out, because a lot of the Sifrei Chassidus, like the Samach Vov and all the other Svarim of the Rebbe Rashab, were not printed. So there would be Bochrim who would stencil it, or we call it Kupir, mimeograph it, which is not real print, and then bind it, or not bind it, different things, and they would sell it, Bochrim would sell it. So this Bocher was standing on this side of the table. On his table were all these types of Svarim, and he was selling it. When the Rebbe came in from the sukkah, he passed by that table. And I'm standing from far, and I saw that the Rebbe's eye caught something that's laying on the table. What was laying on the table was Kopirt, the Bir Tanya of Rabbi Yaakov Kadanar, who was the Chassidim of the Mittel Rebbe, who wrote the Sefer Sipurim Niroim. And he has a Bir on Tanya, and that Bir on Tanya was laying on that table. Next to it, I think it was there also the Bir on Tanya of Reb Shmuel Greinam. And the Rebbe's eye caught it, and the Rebbe stopped. And I'm watching from far. I see the Rebbe stopped in the middle, which was something strange. Like this, the Rebbe would go into the sukkah, come back from the sukkah, go straight into his room. But here the Rebbe stopped by the table. His eye caught the sefer. He picked it up and started blättering, started looking through it. And I think he also picked up the Pirush of the Bir Tanya of Reb Shmuel Greinam, but the main one that he was looking at was the Bir Tanya of Reb Yaakov Kadanar. And that Gebletter, he was standing there for a few moments, I don't remember how long, maybe a minute even, or maybe more, looking through it, and he finished looking through it, and he put it down. And then he continued into his room, went to his room, and later on he went down to say Tilim into the minyan downstairs. But this was something very strange, that the Rebbe stopped and looked at the Svarim and picked up a specific sefer, looked at it and showed interest specifically in that sefer. So there were not too many people standing around, but when I told somebody, he says he heard that there's a letter from the Rebbe, that the Rebbe was looking for this beer. And the truth is, when the Igris were printed, so in Igris Chelik Beis, there's a letter written to Reb Nissen Nemenov, where the Rebbe writes to him, this is page Resh Pei Daled, the end of Resh Pei Daled, beginning of Resh Pei Hey, the Rebbe writes to him like this. This is in Tovshin Ches. Ula Yedu Alei, maybe you know, that somebody who has the Sichas of the Rebbe Rashab, those that did not go into, or not included in the Teira Sholem, V'chein Mare Mikemis, Sipurim v'ha'oras ala Tanya, Miziknei HaChassidim, and also Mare Mikemis and stories and ha'oras on Tanya from the elder Chassidim, ubifrat Rabbi Yaakov Kadanar and Rabbi Shmuel Greinam. Especially, he's looking for the Pirush of Rabbi Yaakov Kadanar and Rabbi Shmuel Greinam. So we see that it's true that the Rebbe had not had it. I guess in Tovshin Ches he didn't have the Pirush, and the Rebbe was looking for it. Also, there's a letter in Chelik Ches of the Igris. This is already from Tovshin Yudaled, written to Reb Shlomo Yosef Zevin, to Harav Zevin, on page Reish Chav Hey. The Rebbe writes to him that when you write, you have a small sefer, Pirush Ksav Yad Al Tanya, and the Rebbe goes on about it. And the Rebbe says, Aval Motzosi Kan, I found here a Bir Tanya, Kfi HaRoshim, all of it's written on it that this is from Rabbi Yaakov Kadanar. And there it starts from the beginning of Lekutei Amorim, Perik Aleph, and it goes till Perik Yud Beis. So we see that by the time of Tovshin Yudala, the Rebbe already had gotten the Pirush, the beer of Rabbi Yaakov Kadanar, this one that he says goes to Perik Yud Beis. But the one that the Bocher was selling seems to be something more than that, because I actually bought a copy then also, and that I think goes till Perik Chof Ches. So anyway, the Rebbe was really looking for this Pirush once. He didn't have it, later he got part of it. So that's why the Rebbe, when he passed by and his eye caught the Pirush of Rabbi Yaakov Kadanar, he picked it up and was geblättert and looked through it for a few moments, and then put it down and went back into his room. What happened later, I don't know. If the Rebbe asked for it to see if he could get it or not. I didn't hear anything. I don't know what happened. But this is what I saw. I saw him come in from the sukkah, stop by the table, picked it up, blattered through it, looking through it, and put it down, and then went into his room.